Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Gorton. Welcome to my show, Willows. And tonight we're going to be talking about the world's oldest pyramid called Cholula. Now, it has a much longer name, but you know what? I will, once the show gets really started, I will I spelled it in my notes phonetic because it's one of those words that you kind of need to. So you'll hear me say it then once we get everybody here and started. And then after that, I will continue referring to it as Cholula because it's pronounceable. And so with that said, I'm going to dedicate tonight's show to my admin, Sandy Miller, who hasn't been feeling well. And I made a post in my Facebook group called the Willows. Those who be new and listening in for the first time. She's not been feeling well, and I made a post in my group for everybody to please send her healing vibes and positive energies and love and light and prayers, whatever is your thing. And that if she doesn't happen to make it in tonight, she doesn't feel well enough, that's fine. But I wanted to put this show out there for her tonight. So anyway, we'll miss you if not here, Sandy. How's that? If you do happen to be here, well, then that's great. And I love you. And I hope you're back on your feet and rocking out Willows Bend again as soon as possible. So I'm waiting for the feed to show up in my group. So for those who might be new to me, either who may be watching the replay on YouTube or perhaps my Facebook channel, which is just Donna Gorton. I do have a folder in there called Willows Bend for my shows, but I have my phone here to monitor the chat because that's who ends up being in the YouTube chat anyway, is my Facebook group people. So it's just easier, and that's how we do it. So if you see me looking down and to the side or referencing obscure people that you don't know who I'm talking about, that's what I'm talking about, is them. So with that said, I am just waiting for the feed to open up. Here I am. There I am. So let me say hi to them real quick, let them know that I see everybody and welcome them in. And there we go. There. Come on, close down. You know, I don't know why random people on Facebook tend to message me when I'm live for my show. Can't talk now, but I guess they're going to message me and they can have fun with that. But anyway, they'll just have to wait to get answered. So hi, everybody in Willows Bend. Lots of love to each of you. For those who weren't here yet before the feed started, I'm sending this show out to our lovely admin, Sandy Miller, that she's back on her feet and rocking Willows Bend out again right quick. For those who might be new to me and be interested, I do have the Facebook group called the Willows Bend. Lots of good stuff in there, really good resource library, the whole 9 yards. I also have a Facebook page called Beyond the Veil, where I do readings live on Friday nights as well. And we have a book group that we do as well in the Willows Bend Wednesday nights. So we'll review all that at the end of the show. So hi, everybody. Hope everyone has had a beautiful weekend. And the weather has kind of cleared up here in upstate New York. We had a good storm breeze through this afternoon. The wind was pretty high, but it was a beautiful feeling breeze, so I took it. Storms don't last long here, so it's okay. So anyway, let's get this party started, and I'm going to do our sage blessing protection circle thing that my group likes me to do for every show, just to kind of keep out any negative vibes, negative energies, any of that stuff. Light her up, Sandy, light it up. There we go. Kind of, sort of, just keep burning. There we are. Okay, so it's a sage. I cast a circle of protection around everyone in the group and during the live. Anybody who is watching it live on YouTube or any of our other platforms or listening on iHeartRadio, they may not be affected by any ill will, ill intent, harm, or otherwise, or negativity in their life whatsoever. If you are, well, push it right out and cut the cords to it. Don't tolerate it. But that said, and may this also extend into people's personal lives as well, keeping them safe from harm and doing well. And also anybody who happens to be watching the replay after the fact. So I will it, so mote it be. There we go. Oh, and I got to show you guys this because it is just the cutest damn thing. And he's my little buddy. I got to find a home for him to sit on because I haven't found that yet. So I won this in the group that I recently got associated with on Facebook. And it was like the first live that they did that I went into, and they always do giveaways during their lives. You're welcome, Sandy. So I won this like right off the bat. It is so cute. It's handmade, and it's my little turtle guy. He's so cute. Isn't that cute? Like, he's just amazing. And it's made with kind of sparkly yarn over the top of a shell. You can kind of see that there. So yeah, he is adorable. I'm just going to find a place to put him because he's so cute. I like him in sight, but I'm not sure where to stick him yet. Hi, Audra. So tonight we are going to be talking about the world's oldest known pyramid, Cholula. Now, okay, you guys ready for this? This is my attempt at saying the full name in the original language. Hi, Renee. Hi, everybody. It's going to be the only time I use this name during the show because it's really big, really long word, and I don't have it memorized. I'm not going to lie. So, looks like a Wilbur. You're right. It does. It looks just like, he's just the cutest thing. And or like the Finding Nemo, the little guy fish, like the little boy one, but in a turtle form. That's kind of the sweetness of it reminds me of that. All right. So Cholula is also called, you ready? Talakawa Tapeltuo. Did I get it right? Let me see. Talakawa Tapitaho. There we go. Talakawa Tapitolo. So we're going to go with Cholula. Yeah. That is in the native tongue of the region called Nahuatl, which means it translates into made by hand mountain. So Cholula is located in Cholula, Pueblo, Mexico, and it is the largest archaeological site of a pyramid in the New World and the largest pyramid by volume known to exist anywhere in the world. Now, of course, there may be some pyramids that have not been discovered yet, but as of right now, the volume of this site is massive, and it outdoes even the Great Pyramid of Giza, which was previously the largest known pyramid in the world. However, the excavation of this has been going on like since the 30s. It's kind of crazy. We're going to get into the history of it, but just it's been done in stages of pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down for the digs of it and the excavation of the site. So they kind of drew it out. I'm hoping maybe in the future they will go back and finish excavating the site because by doing so, it also helps save and preserve the site. And that needs to be done for sites like this, I definitely think. So it had kind of grown over with vegetation and grass and whatever to cover it, to make it look like a hill over time. And somebody kind of happened upon it by accident, as it usually is, and got looking at it a bit closer and discovered, oh no, it was not indeed a hill. It is a pyramid. So I have lots of pictures tonight to show of the site and all the history to give of that. And hey, Stacy, I'm glad you guys were amused by the picture I posted having fun from Snapchat with Stacy. My sister and I got busy the other night, and I had Snapchat back in the day when my daughter was a teenager, and I kind of got rid of it when she grew up and got out on her own, what have you. And Stacy kind of reintroduced me to it. But so she had this one filter, I'm going to say this really quick because it's funny, that made you look like a guy if you're a woman. But I was like, wow, you're like a hot looking guy, sis. I want to try that one. So we finally found it, and I'm not an attractive looking guy, I gotta say. No, it made my jaw look like my jaw came too far like this in profile. Yeah. No, I look better as a woman. I prefer being a woman. I'm good with being a woman. But the one that I did post, that was hilarious and caught me by guard. I was like, oh my God, what did it do to me? but you gotta have fun. And so in the name of fun, that's what it was all about. And life's too short to be so vain and caught up on how you look all the time. So it's okay to make fun of yourself. So that's all I was doing with that, but it was fun. And we tried all kinds of different ones that night. So yeah, Snapchat has grown considerably since my daughter was little, I will say. Yeah, they didn't have half as many filters then as they do now. So, yep, Ursula. It's probably available in most people's app stores. Yeah, but and it's free. So I just thought that was really funny and worthy of sharing what it did to me. Holy cow. Anyhow. All right, so the topic tonight, let's get back on topic, Donna. So let me show you a picture of the pyramid first before we get going on its statistics and all of that. Okay, so first of all, this first one is actually like an artist's conception of what the original pyramid probably looked like back, originally. There are actual photographs of the existing site currently in place, but this gives you an idea of what it's thought to have looked like based on restoring a couple of sides that have damage to it. And so if it was seen in its entirety, that's an artist's rendition of the finished product. So as you can see, it's got a much wider base to it than what most pyramids have. So whilst it's not as tall as some of the other pyramids, it is massively wide and spread out over a number of acres. So yeah, it's pretty huge. So that said, let me set you down here. I want to put some makeup on you and takes. Most of the ones I found just kind of like softened your looks. Now there were some that kind of like the filters you get in Messenger chat that you can use for the camera option, but most of the filters just kind of soften your look. But they do have it. So, and they also had one that makes you look like an old lady. So I did post that one too. Okay, so it's made mainly out of adobe bricks. Now, adobe bricks back in the old style of making them is taking like mud and clay and water, mixing that together, and they would throw in gravel. Some locations would make them using hay like straw thrown into it. Some use ceramic bits and pieces with it. And you get in and you kind of keep stomping on it to make it thickened up and mix it all really together well. And then they would have like a brick shape that they would put the muck in and smooth it out, let it sun dry, and then would go on to use it to build with. So this pyramid is in Cholula, Mexico. Cholula, Puebla, Mexico. Also, picture that, looks like a man. Yeah, she makes a hot guy, I'm gonna say. That was a surprise, but it was also a surprise that I was not a hot guy. Didn't care for that look. Not at all. So the full name of the pyramid is Tlacoate Pitahul. So it's much easier than that word. And in the native tongue of that region of Nahuatl, it means made by hand of mountain, is what that big long stands for. So I didn't memorize it. I can't pronounce it cleanly. So we're gonna go with Cholula. Yes, it is actually very similar in style to Teotihuacan sites. In fact, that is thought to be that at one point people from that region built onto that pyramid there. So it's made of adobe bricks. It stands 180 feet high or 55 meters above the surrounding terrain. Its final full measurements are 450 by 450 meters or 1,480 feet by 1,480 feet, versus the Great Pyramid in Giza, to use for compare and contrast. The Great Pyramid in Giza is only 230 meters by 230 meters. So 450 versus 230, big difference in size. And that has formerly always been called the Great Pyramid, but this is really currently in holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest known pyramid in the world at this time. So the temple was dedicated to the god Quetzalcoatl, which is the feathered serpent god, which was very common in the very early history days of Mexico and South America. And many of us have seen that being, I'll show you a quick picture and you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that one. All right, so this is an image of Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent god, where it kind of has like a dragon's type of head, lots of big ass teeth, and then like the feathers going around it. So that's Quetzalcoatl. Get that back out of there. Yeah, go back. I don't know why it's not responding. So I figured I'd use this tablet since we didn't have such great luck on using my other one for the last time I did pictures. So, it's opening Google. I don't want Google. Let's reopen this real quick. Okay, go back. Images. And go out. There you go. All right, cool. The only way to see chat is to keep refreshing, and I don't want to miss anything. That's such a pain when it happens like that. I've noticed that with a lot of Zoom lives that happens, at least to me with my tablet. With Zoom, I get kicked out every time I comment, and I have to go in and out and in and out. Yeah, it's frustrating. I get you. Okay, so as was common in those times, a set group of people would occupy a region, then get taken over by another through wars, etc., or abandoning a site even, and then a new one would come in, and just rather than how some different peoples from different places around the world, like Egypt even, for example, when with certain figures, heads would leave the seat and of ruling, they would like destroy things that were from them in order to make room and rebuild images of themselves everywhere. They didn't do that here. They would end up just building on top of pre-existing sites. So that's why I think that it started out with such a wide base is that that the original base of it may have been, say, a tomb or something, and then from there another group came in and built and did their thing on top of that and kept going. But it's not a supremely tall pyramid compared to some of them, and the Great Pyramid is a lot taller, but this has bigger like width, and the base is a lot bigger. The only chat you can see is yours. That's also odd, Sandy. Huh. I don't know why I don't know why you'd be having those issues, unless maybe ultimately uninstalling and reinstalling Facebook, not now, of course, because I don't want you to lose the show, but at some point when you're not on air, uninstall and reinstall Facebook, like uninstall it, shut your device off, then reboot it, and then reinstall it from your app store. Sometimes that can help too. I don't know, it might. Anyway. So in Cholula, again, they didn't take it down. They just built on top of in various layers. So they had a whole millennia to make it as big as what it is. So its construction, what does that consist of? Couldn't get on, ask Katie's help. Huh, that's strange, Marianne. Yeah, worst case scenario, if you have trouble, you can't always go to YouTube and watch, but yeah. Oh, you're on your computer. Gotcha. Well, try it on the tablet instead. See if that makes a difference. Okay, so the construction of this pyramid. So the temple was built in 4 stages, beginning around the 3rd century BCE, before current era, through the 9th century BC. So it kind of progressed for 6 centuries of building time to make it where it was left off as. And at its peak, Cholula had the 2nd largest population in Mexico, which was over or approximately 100,000 people. And around the 8th century, the city had a significant population drop. But despite this, the pyramid held its religious importance. So even though it may not have been actively still used as a temple after that point, it still was seen as being sacred to the people. And there was a lot of burials that were found in and around the pyramid. So it was still considered a sacred site, even though it wasn't actively being used. They still held it in high regard. So it was once called the Chololan, which means the place of those who fled. And it's unknown if perhaps, it was due to drought, lack of resources, or why, as is with the case with all cities in, the ancient worlds that got abandoned. We don't know why, what drove them away or what caused them to disappear and leave. But I do find that interesting that there is actually a name for it there. Now I want a chalupa from Taco Bell. There is a brand of hot sauce called Cholula. And when I heard the name of this pyramid, I thought it sounded familiar and I couldn't figure out why. And then I finally saw some ad, I think it was on YouTube, for Cholula brand hot sauce. Now, ironically, it's not made in Cholula. It's made in Mexico, but it's not in Cholula. So I thought that was interesting. So a group of Tolteca, let me try this. Okay. Sorry, my Spanish is rusty. Tolteca Chichimeca, there we go, who had fled their capital city and arrived and conquered there. And the Tolteca were thought to be at least somehow related to the Olmecs and the Toltec people. There's some similarities there in name and in building styles. So it's kind of assumed that they came from the Olmecs and so forth. Now, so long after the pyramid itself was abandoned, again, people still continue to bury their dead there, build mausoleums. Even there were a few, not how we would think of mausoleums, but they were buildings with artwork that contained 1 or 2 remains of loved ones. Fast forwarding to the time the Spanish arrived, the pyramid was overgrown, and by the 16th century, because during the Spanish transmigration, I guess you could call it, and subsequent Spanish conquests of trying to convert everybody they encountered to become Christian, what did they do? They went ahead and built a church on top of this pyramid. Yes, church on top of the pyramid. Now, this church was visible, and again, I don't know if they at the time knew that they were building it on top of a pyramid. I almost would think that it was done more out of disrespect, that they built the church on top of it, knowing that was a site, to try to kind of replace them and usurp the pyramid's ability to have any impact on local populations, is my opinion. But of course, we don't know that. But so the church actually still exists there today. And I thought I had a picture of it, which I don't. In 1931, architect Ignacio Martinez started exploratory tunneling within the pyramid, and by 1954, the total length of the tunnels that he had started digging through the side of the pyramid came to a total of 5 miles long of tunnels. Now, not 5 miles straight, of course. They went in different directions, and they were kind of dug in like mining styles. And rather than putting the traditional beam support things in place that like a typical mine shaft would have, they created arches to kind of at least blend in with the style of the pyramid, so it wasn't being as destructive. They weren't like tunneling through walls or anything. His idea, I think, was to more go under the pyramid versus, damaging anything to it. I mean, the world of archaeology has greatly evolved since that time in the 1930s. It was still really in its infancy as far as preservation goes and so forth, but it was a start. So he at least started uncovering it and showing, hey, wait a minute, this isn't a hillside here. There's something more here. So today, the pyramid looks like a natural hill surrounded or surmounted by a church, which is called Iglesia de Nuestro Señor los Remedios, which means Church of Our Lady of Remedies. And this was built by the Spaniards in 1594 on top of the ancient prehistoric temple. Lovely, I know, but a total of 6 different ethnic groups have occupied this site and built over top of existing structures throughout the millennia. And thank you, Katie. Only 3 have been studied thus far in depth. So only 3 layers. Now there's approximately 9 layers to the pyramid. Only 3 have been studied in depth because, again, the digs for it started, went to a certain time period, stopped, sat for 20 years untouched, and then they approached it again and restarted it for about 10-15 years, and then it dropped again. So they only got so far in the excavations. But they were, to be fair, not just working on the pyramid, but they were doing the surrounding area of the pyramid as well. So like that image I showed of the artist's rendering, see if I can get it so you guys can see it and use my pen as a pointer. Here, can you show up for me? That would be great. Get my finger out of the way, also great. And get it blown up. Okay, there it is. So over here, like there's subsequent like outbuildings and like plazas and things, and little like it's called courtyards of the altar. So there's lots more to the site than just the pyramid. What's my point? Okay. Hey, Mary. I did see you there, by the way. Okay, so some layers did have burials in them with skeletons that were found in various positions. Many had offerings with them, especially ceramic items. Ceramics were really, really important to them back then, and they were getting really creative with just like, so when the site first began, they hadn't really discovered how to make ochres and colors of different colored paints. But throughout the subsequent 300 years after that, they had discovered how to make green, red, browns, blacks, that sort of thing for colors for paints based out of naturally pigmented items, herbs, etc., flowers, whatever, coal, etc., and would use that to paint. And there are a number of ceramic pieces that have like paintings and designs on them, and there's also like murals inside the pyramid that got found that are quite detailed as well. So I do have some pictures I can show you right quick of, find them here, some of the like the ceramic finds, because they do have a museum currently on site to help preserve these items that got found in the dig site. Bring you up here. Nope, wrong button. It's a bad part about this tablet is that it doesn't respond the same way as my tablet. So lots of times when you are wanting to just go backward, it'll open Google for some reason. I haven't figured out why on that one, but it's what it does. So let me get the gallery open again. And go back. There we go. Thank you. Let me find the one I was looking for. It's probably towards the end. it's just, there it is, the image of the facade of the museum that holds a lot of the artifacts that were found in situ, which means on site. That's just archaeology's fancy way of saying found in position on site as they were. And so the museum holds a lot of those items, is what in situ means. So if you ever encounter it, that's all it's talking about. I'm gonna have to hold it with my right arm because my left shoulder is being awful tonight. So here's an example of one of their painted ceramic containers, and it looks like, it would have a liquid or something that could pour out through what looks like eyes, and possibly a serpent there for the head. Little handles on it, and let's see. Come on, there we go. There's another one. Here's some other examples of some of the items that have been found in and around the pyramid, in the pyramid grounds. So they were quite skilled at making different shaped and sized ceramic containers to serve different needs. It is beautiful pottery, absolutely. They were quite skilled with that. They also did, statues and such. Here's some examples of some of those, of their figures. And of course, this area of Mexico has its own style of art and how they portray people and so forth. So those are some of them. And let's see here. Here's some more. And even some of those pieces, those little round circles down in the front row, almost have like a metal look to them. So I'm not sure if they are. The picture didn't identify them as anything in particular, and I'm not sure. I would guess it'd be used for decoration, but it's other examples of that. And the is all just different shapes and sizes. In the background, there's like a picture of someone who is native to that area, and just what they look like. But yeah, so let's see here. Now, sadly, the north side of the pyramid was severely damaged during colonial times to, of all things, build the Camino Real to Puebla, which is a fancy hotel. They damaged the structure knowingly because back then, see, now there are laws through the evolution of archaeology that protects sites like this. So if someone applies for a business permit to build something and they start excavation and they find anything of ancient, whatever it is, any sort of artifacts, the dig must legally stop and is not allowed to proceed until archaeologists have a chance to come in, scope out the site, save any relics that can be saved, and even if it's just removing them for further study in a lab, it's at least preventing them from being permanently lost. And they have to kind of clear it for when they're allowed to rebuild. But back when this happened, those laws didn't exist yet. So they got away with it, so they built this fancy hotel and damaged the whole north side of the pyramid and caused a lot of destruction. Yeah, it does look a lot like terracotta, and I'm sure a lot of it was. And then the west side was later damaged to build the railway line. Again, no laws in protecting it. So, hey, this is in our way and we want to do what we want to do. So sorry, but it's gone. So the history of the excavation. Now I mentioned how it was done kind of in stages. So the first study of the area was done by a Swiss-born American archaeologist whose name was Adolf Bandelier in 1881. He published his works on the site 3 years later in 1884. His work involved unearthing several burials around the pyramid, and it's a sad practice that occurred back then. However, it was done of collecting any of the skulls that were found from the burials, and they sit in a drawer in a museum nowadays to where no one knows who they belong to anymore because they were removed from burial sites, so they can't be identified. Now, later laws actually put it into place to where they're having to go back through all those supplies of bones, and it's like a repatriatization act to send them back to the original people to allow them to rebury them in the fashion that is for their way of, how their people would do it. But none of these things occurred. So he took the skulls, ran with them back to the lab, and they sat in a museum drawer for an indefinite period of time, some of which may still be there. I don't know, but that was what happened. And yeah, that's a huge shame that it could happen, because that stuff was lost. So, well, it does say actually on my next page of my notes that they ended up in the museum storerooms in the United States. So the skulls ended up there, but they are supposed to go back through and return them from whence they came. If like the closest living relative can be found, if we have a name to go on, they're supposed to research all that out. And if they can find a living relative, that's who the remains get given to. If a living relative cannot be found, then it's given back to the population of people who now occupy that area or who are native to where that person belonged to. So say here in the United States, for example, that happened all the time with the indigenous people of the United States. So now they have to at least take it back to the tribe who it's from and offer it to them to rebury, and in their own native traditions to them, and leave it there, and they can't keep them anymore, in other words. So Bandelier also took the first precise measurements of the structure and began figuring out its construction. Now, the pyramid's excavation was done in two different phases. The first one was in 1931 and ended in the 1950s. They began again during 1966 and officially ended in 1970. The ending date for the 1971 was a matter of, people lost interest in it and lack of funding. Like originally, it was promoted because of the tourist dollars it stood to bring to the area. So, hey, bring this out, bring it to the light, and let's welcome people to Cholula, basically. And, but interest kind of started waning on it. So they stopped the dig in 1970. But originally it had both state and federal support in it. So some of the findings from the excavations as they went along. Now the pyramid does not have an obvious entrance due to its deteriorated state. Like there's not a massive front door entrance or something to it. So archaeologists began tunneling on the north side where the colonial damage was. During colonial times, it was damaged to build the hotel. So since it was already damaged, they used that as a starting point, figuring, we're not going to be causing more harm here by starting these tunnels. At least then we have a way to get into the pyramid and see what's in there. So remains of walls and other structures can still be seen, though. So the tunneling techniques used were again based on mining, and even small tracks were installed to have like those little mini coal cart bins to remove the debris as they came across it, to put, get it on the tracks to make for ease of getting it out of the inside of the pyramid as they worked their way inside. And the base of the pyramid was made from sun-dried adobe bricks, which I already went over how those are made, which contains ceramic, obsidian, and gravel for better compacting and sturdiness, which obviously it's held up over time because it's still standing. The tunnels eventually created a labyrinth underground. These tunnels are what showed the real value of the pyramid. So it's not a bad thing that they did the tunneling and got it started. And again, at least they did the least destructive method. So they dug 16 test pits also in the first round of excavation to determine a timeline of construction based on any ceramic materials found. So what test pits are basically in archaeology, they lay down a grid line using thread, and they tie it to posts. So it's just tiny squares, like a 1 foot by 1 foot space. And somebody, usually archaeology students, or those who are working towards their higher degree in focusing in archaeology to get their grad degrees, whatever, will volunteer to earn extra credit by going on these digs. So they'll take one of these people and put them, hey, you work on this square one in grid A and dig this down to, say a set depth, to discover, is there any pieces of any pottery shards in there or anything else that it contains. And by that, it's being much more thorough to go through a grid pattern to make sure nothing's missed. Initially, they can do it kind of randomly, of just random test bits to see where should we dig and focus on. Then the grid lines are laid down. But they did do 16 test bits in the first round of excavation to kind of determine, okay, how did ceramics evolve over time? And that gave them an idea of how old the site was, based on the, again, the evolution of the ceramics. So when excavations resumed in the 1960s to 1970, they were funded by federal and state governments of Mexico, who wanted to make Cholula a big tourist attraction, hence also building a museum and so forth to preserve the items. At this time, more than just the pyramid is being studied, including determining agricultural patterns of the site, ceramic development, and water distribution systems. And experts were also brought in on geology, botany, and paleozoology to see what kind of, stones might have been used in the construction, what plants were these people surviving off of, and what kind of animals were around them at the time. So this time they began focusing on the damaged south side and excavating the remains of plazas and buildings that made up the large complex. The patios unearthed date as far back as 200 to 800 of the current era, and it was difficult to link these findings to the interior of the pyramid. So the courtyard of altars were uncovered as well, and I do have a couple pictures of some of the altars from the site that were found. So here's one that they added like a rooftop to help minimize the additional damage to it through weatherization, etc. And there's like a mural present under the roof in there. So if I can get really close through here, I can actually even blow it up for you. There we go. So there's a mural under that roof that they're using the roof to protect it from the elements, etc., and any further destruction. And here is another altar that they found in what they named the courtyard of the altars, because there were several altars found in this one courtyard. And they were all different kinds and were used for different purposes. So this was one example, and some of them were in pieces, so they reconstructed them. Others were just knocked over, etc. Long ago, any offerings that had been made had long ago been stolen from them, unfortunately. But so here's a view of the main courtyard that is near the pyramid. A little bit closer, there you can see the details better. And this is, it says building F, but it was just part of the pyramid as they were uncovering it. But you can see like some of the progress. The upper hill that's still on top of it hasn't been unearthed yet. And again, that's kind of reflective of the various time periods they had funding to do it. So it is a step pyramid, as evident by, the steps on it. My pen always makes a really good pointer during shows. Let me get it in view again here. Great angle. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so over here, come on, hold still. All these are steps going up the pyramid. I have other pictures that will show you kind of more of the scale of it that have people on them. let's see. So here is an image of the entire site. It's like an aerial view. Here you can see in the background, way in the background at the top of the hill, that's the church that the Spaniards built. And so that's like an aerial view of under the church is a pyramid up on top of the hill and all of the courtyards and such in the area of theirs that were found. So like down, my pen, where am I here? Over here, this picture here where I just showed you, that was a close-up of that picture, for example. Okay. Here is some of the steps that were down into different areas. And, they were also working with stepped agricultural areas so that, rainwater would fall down and keep going down the hills and it's watering things down below. So those are some of the steps down into like the main plaza area, etc. And here's one of the side views of the pyramid. There you can see the steps a whole lot clearer. So that's like what had gotten uncovered. Again, it's not thought to be the entire shebang, but again, the church got built up on top of the hill, so that kind of also prevented any further digging. But on the plus side, it also ended up protecting the site because they now can't go and destroy it because the church is sitting on it. And the church is still an active church today. Now this one, if you can make it out on the screen, which I'm hoping you can. Okay, so on these steps here, those are people. To give you an example of the scale of this place. And here's more people walking up all the stairs up to the top. That's how big this sucker is. It's huge. Like I cannot fathom walking up that many stairs to get to the top. I mean, it must be a great view, but holy cow, that's a lot of stairs. And then each subsequent area was built smaller with some space around it to stand on, like platform areas, so to speak, and then continue up to the next level. Let's see here. And this is another part of the courtyard that they have uncovered thus far. So again, this place held 100,000 people in its heyday. And, again, different populations would usurp the current occupants and then take over building the next layer, essentially. So they wouldn't, undo everything that had already been done. They would just build over top of it. But that is the case for all South American pyramid structures or these cities that we have been found across South America. They've just rebuilt, each subsequent population of people would add to and build on top of. So at least they weren't wasting resources in that way. This is a view of one of the tunnels. I thought that was just slightly creepy, but and it's just showing, you can see kind of the tracks going through there before. Yeah, way too many stairs for me too. I can't do that many, of course. I would make it up the first layer of it, but certainly not handicapped accessible by any means, but so that's just one of the tunnels that they had dug. Some of them are stairs as well in that picture. So here's another one. I like the pictures that have people in it because it gives you a scale to look at to gauge how big, different areas are. So standing on that grassy knoll, there's outcropping are the people to give you a sense of the size of that. So let's see. So this is the Teotihuacan, which is, part of their people did take over, and there is influence of that style on this site. So we pretty much have excavated their entire city that they had. And this is what that looks like. So just so you can kind of compare and contrast another ancient city in South America, see the similarities in the building styles and such. So all of that, you see the pyramids and the distance and the small little temple areas and so forth. So just to give you an idea of some building styles stuff, and there is evidence of the Teotihuacan in that area. So let's see. This here is a view on the stairs upward and two people, and you can see the whole city in the background there. Just to give you a scale view of what's in the surrounding area. Okay, so back there because there are pictures, but I want to wait till I get further. We'll get to those areas in a minute. Okay, so by 1974, in Mexico, project was yet again abandoned in 1974. So only fragmented knowledge was discovered at that time because they weren't allowed to go in and finish digging. But they did, again, what they did uncover, it allowed it to be made a preserved site. So nobody else can go in and destruct anything there to build other things around it. And to also, the church also adds that element of protection to the site. So even though, of course, as from an archaeological standpoint, I would much rather not have seen them build a church on it there in an attempt to convert the local indigenous people, but it served to help protect the place. So some of the elements found in the 60s and 70s part of the dig, the excavations and tunnels that were done did prove that the hill was more than just a hill, and the offerings, floors, walls, and human remains dating back to 900 of the current era were uncovered. Today, only about 800 meters or 2,600 feet of the tunnels are open to the public. The rest they closed off either because the different areas may not be safe, or they haven't finished excavating them yet. So that's the only amount people you can go in the tunnels. So if you go to visit the site, you are allowed to explore certain, that amount of the tunnels and check out what they did find from excavating them. Visitors enter through the north side, through the center of the pyramid, whose 9 floors have been excavated from the bottom to the top. The tunnels have been welded in arched passageways, secure the tunnels from cave-ins. There are 2 famous murals, and one is called the Chapulines, there we go, Chapulines, which has an image of like grasshoppers with black skulls in the middle. And then another mural is called Bebedores, which shows several fireflies drinking out of the vessels used for pulque, which was a local alcoholic beverage that was made from the sap of the guava plant. Now, this is said to be fairly potent stuff and it kind of almost has a milky look to it and kind of that consistency, but I've heard reports that it's pretty strong stuff. It's their version of beer, basically. And around that time, there's a number of structures and patios that form the massive structures. Later excavations showed that the actual entrance of the pyramid was on the west side, and where there's minor accesses both on the northeast and the southwest corners of the pyramid as well. Now, there are levels within the pyramid that link, like I said, to the Teotihuacan period civilization. Try that one, Donna. In the style of building and the ceramics found. There were also early structures found during the first round of excavations in the 30s of what's believed to be like mausoleum human skulls fashioned out of clay. So they built these clay skulls with bulging eyes because that was their art style, and then covered them in stucco to help preserve them. And the remains were found of a woman and of a man, and the grave goods of the woman were really related to domestic life and included her comal, which is kind of like a flat griddle used in Mexico. It's still used today. It's really like a cast iron frying pan, but very flat. And it's used in parts of South America as well to make tortillas, etc. And also some bone spindles and things that were related to domestic life. Now, the male skeleton that was found, they figure probably belonged to a renowned warrior, as his grave goods were far richer and included things like ritual vessels, an elegant base with a multicolored design, obsidian arrowheads, a musical instrument, and the jawbone of the, I'm not sure how to say this, but a Xolo dog, which is basically related to the Mexican hairless dog. And they were considered to be guides to the underworld. Now, I do have a modern day picture because this is considered like a big deal of a breed. And just to give you an idea what they look like in life anyway. So that's the Xolo or a Xolo. That's how I think you say it. It's Xolo dog. And obviously, like they're used in, you see them in dog shows and things like that. They're a rarer breed, but they were thought to guide the dead through the land of the dead, basically into the underworld. I do find it curious, though, that only his jawbone was included. So why not the rest of the dog? Like, I don't know. Didn't say anything other than that. So maybe someone could have even taken the rest of it. Who knows? You know, a long time went between when this warrior was buried versus when he got found. So could somebody have messed with the remains of it that were in there for his grave goods? Yes, of course. Now, the 9 stories of the pyramid, now these were added on to the base structure around 350 and 450 CE, current era. So go back to our ground zero and count forward to the year 350. The 9 stories switched back to using adobe to build with rather than the previous in-between layers, which used earth and lime to build with. This part was finished with stucco, which is more durable. And each rising level was made smaller than the previous one, leaving a space of 2 meters. So as I had said on, let me find that picture. Let's see, which one are you? Which was a good one? I want to find one that has the people walking up it. All those stairs. Let's see, not you. I don't know why it's not showing here right now. And granted, I do have a lot of pictures, but still. All right, well, at any rate, I can use this one to show you. So as each layer got built, and what the hell happened there? It blew up on me. As each layer of the pyramid was built, with my pen, so this layer would be smaller, and these here, this is like really the rims, they're 2 meters wide. So it gives people, 6 feet of standing room basically on each layer. And then each subsequent layer was built smaller on top of it. But the amount of space, the 2 meter space didn't change per layer. So it just was the size of the around part change, but you still had 6 feet to stand on. The entrance stairs were on the southeast corner, and the 3 others served as exits. These are associated with the step pyramid of the Jaguar altar. There's evidence that these walls were painted black with stucco serving as the color white on them. And the first level of the west side is evidence of a black, green, and red and ochre paint colors. Like I said, as things kind of evolved, and so did their paintings. But they mainly started out with black and used stucco for white. So there's a well-preserved section with a black and green background with red stripes, which I believe I have a picture of here. Let me look. I have several pictures of the murals that were preserved inside. The colors are still incredibly bright in them. Yeah, maybe not that one, but okay. I guess not the striped ones. So there's also, it also has profiles of the jaguars and two serpents in the black and white ones. So it has the side view of the jaguar's face, which was a sacred animal to those people and a symbol of much power. And then two serpents. Now, serpents, I know for many people who are Christian, represent evil and badness, but to them, they were sacred beings because of the feathered serpent. So they represented power and knowledge as well. So it wasn't something to, seen as some evil thing that corrupted people, as they tend to get seen from the Christian perspective of things. So, in fact, like I said, that feathered serpent of Quetzalcoatl is a very, very prominent figure throughout Mexico and all of South America's building sites. That's like one of their main gods and deities they had. So, yeah, screw it. That would be great. There we go. So during the initial excavation, a plaza got uncovered that contained 3 pyramid-shaped structures, which is where I mentioned earlier that the what I was pointing to were not, separate pyramids, but other buildings on the site that were found. But they were shaped like pyramids, even though they weren't actual pyramids. So it has a complex of buildings adjoining with the south side of the pyramid, and 4 altars were excavated in the courtyard of altars. Now, the altar number 1 was originally found in 22 pieces that they repaired and put back together again. And the pieces were painted so that it was of the altar the use of it can only be guessed at, because again, long ago, the offerings were looted, and the offerings would have given some insight as to what they were making offerings for, like what was the purpose of the altar. Without that there, as you saw, they're just like, a stone base, or, there's no telling what they were meant to be. It could have been to a specific deity. It could have been for rain. It could have been for the blessings of a new child, whatever, the battles and warring stuff. Who knows? But, again, we don't have anything that really gives evidence of what they were used for. Altar number 2 is a traditional Mesoamerican altar, and it's functioned like a pedestal. And on one side, there's 2 feathered serpents extending along the length of it. Altar 3, this one is next to the pyramid, so they may have been more important because they're so close to the pyramid. I still think we had help from above. That's why the pyramids point upwards. Yeah, and that's a big school of thought is, there was a big discussion I had recently with somebody regarding just that of, how there's so much evidence out there of advanced civilizations that came before us and, the modern day humans. And yet science is only starting to kind of look closer and consider them, because it shakes the foundation up of their perceived basis of science, and with the Darwinism and the theory of evolution and all of that, that it kind of turns that up on its ear by considering that, humans, the footprints and all these archaeological finds date well past, like long ago, from what they say humans appeared at or gained the ability to build stuff from. So, that stuff, obviously, when they're moving multi-ton stones in a place from sites miles and miles away, I mean, that would have taken many lifetimes to finish. So yes, I think other older civilizations had help with that stuff, or were way more advanced. So the one that was the altar 3 was next to the pyramid, so it may have been more important because of its close proximity to the pyramid. And when found, it was lying on its side, indicating something happened at the site, but it's unknown what. Other large stone sculptures were found in the area as well. And one is the head of a serpent with geometrical designs, and also is one of a giant human head that could correspond to the post-Olmec traditions. Now, they don't really resemble the Olmec heads, I don't think, but it is massively huge. And I apologize, this is the best picture of it that I could find. So it's a little shaded weird on it. It looks like it was like a bad photocopy or something. But it's the only one I could find, but it gives you an idea of it anyway. Those massive large eyes and such, yeah. So again, completely different than the Olmec heads, but similar in the fact that they are heads and that they were made from huge boulders. So the faces of them are constructed completely different, like the features and stuff. They are very different from the Olmec heads in that way. Let's see what next. Oh, the murals. So these murals that were found at Cholula reflect on the social, political, and economic changes that they went through over time as a people. Now, 21 painted areas have been found. The oldest shows no representation of colors other than red, but after the year 220, new colors appeared, as well as human-like figures, animals, geometric shapes also began appearing as well. So something made their art skills jump at that point to where they got a little bit more advanced in how they made things. So here is a picture of or a couple different of the murals that are on the walls. Now, the shapes of them are, not quite as exact as, say, what you'd find in Egyptian artwork, but, you can tell they're people. Let me show you that. It's a lot. It's all clustered in together, right? So most are outside, indicating that they were made for the public. Not outside the pyramid, but outside in terms of, not buried into the heart of the pyramid. Here's another picture that was painted, and it shows them like sitting on mats, and they're drinking what is presumed to be that alcoholic beverage that was so popular back then. So and they got their cups and their little vessels and such. And it's both men and, hey Aaron, it's both men and women are pictured on these murals, so it's not just men shown. And you'll laugh at some of the descriptions I have in a minute here for one of them. Very kind of abstract figures, if you will. Hey, we're also not freezing on the video tonight too, which is awesome, like last time. So this gives you, with the gentleman standing there, an idea of the size of the murals. They're really quite big. And it's thought that, throughout the time period of the occupation of the site, that different artisans would kind of just add on to them as they went along. Be careful by the edge there, Jake. Don't trip and fall, please. Yeah, okay. Now there's one called the Mural of Drinkers. And this was buried at the depth of nearly 25 feet in, and is one of the longest pre-Columbian murals of Mexico, with a total length of 187 feet or 57 meters. Are you going to try to get down? Yes. Okay. It was built over a talud, which is an architectural style used in temples, pyramids, platforms, etc., in the pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, having like steeply sloping walls that's surmounted by a table-like right-angled panel with with an intersection, basically. So it's a technique mainly used that's in Teotihuacan, which is also thought to be like where you see the influence of it showing up in this site is of that or from that. So the mural of drinkers is a feast, and they're wearing cloth turbans and sashes, have on zoomorphic masks, meaning animal-shaped masks, and they sit facing pairs. So two people sitting facing each other, and drinking and serving themselves from vessels in between them. And so they show different vignettes, which are like mini scenes of a relaxed gathering of drinking, making offerings, and even one part of it that shows someone vomiting and one defecating in the corner, going poop in the corner. Yeah. The mural is divided into 6 walls, having been made by different artisans, and it's also been retouched several times throughout its history. So as different artisans would come in, they would touch up the existing ones before adding their own piece to it. So there's a total of 110 pairs. Hi, babies, what you need? There's 110 pairs of people, so that'd be like 220 people, with 4 being depicted as seated women, and some even showing figures with wrinkles on their faces depicting the age of them. There's a total of 168 jars, cups, and other containers shown in these murals. So that was obviously something that was very prominent, and their use of ceramics was also very prominent in their society. Dogs were also depicted, and jars with complex designs are also shown. So different levels and sections of the mural were completed and added to over the time as the building of the pyramid progressed. These murals expanded and got added to, and different walls put into it and such. So then we have, going on to the topic of the burials that were found in the surrounding area around the pyramid. Now, during the course of excavation, over 400 human burials had been uncovered. So people bury their dead around the pyramid long after its use as a temple ended, again, kind of indicating that the temple remained important to them, even though it wasn't still being actively used. So it would be kind of like burying your dead or your family in a graveyard next to a church. Kind of the same idea as that. So even though it wasn't active as a temple, they still revered and respected it. There are signs of a number of human sacrifices as evidence of mangled body parts and skulls that got found from decapitated victims. So that was also a thing back then. 8 people were found under the slab flooring of the courtyard of altars, including the remains of several children that were deposited into ceramic pots. Now, it didn't say the age of the children or show the vessels they were found in or anything else. It just talked about it. These children were thought to be messengers to Talaluke, who was the god of rain due to the drought conditions on the site. And also the disarticulated remains, which disarticulated means where they're everywhere on the body where there are joints, they were pulled apart, they're in pieces. So they were separated, from their body parts, basically. So the disarticulated remains of at least 46 people were found in an area of the altar of both sexes and all ages were also represented in the burials. Now, currently, the site sees about 220,000 visitors annually. So it's still like a really big touristy place. And I'm sure that the tourist dollars do a miracle work for the town of, or city. I'm not sure the population of Cholula, but it's got to make a big difference because that area is known for being, very poverty stricken. So I'm sure with the annual arrival of all those visitors and staying in their local places and so forth, that that's going to bring a lot of money into the area, which in turn can also help with the upkeep of the site. Honey, you can go ahead and get up. It's okay, go ahead. Not even sure why you got down, you just walked around and now you want to get back up. So before the arrival of the Spanish, the pyramid was considered a sacred site. Go ahead. I even gave you a little more space. Just give a page here. Let me see. Before the arrival of the Spanish, the pyramid was considered sacred to the rain goddess. And after the Spanish arrived, they replaced the image of the rain goddess with one of the Virgin Mary. And in true Christian fashion, during the conquest days of old, they built a church on top of the pyramid, as I said. And the church, ironically, was built by lightning, struck by lightning several times. Many still come to see the church, and it's, it is a live church, if you will. But yeah, many people, when being converted to Christianity, that was a big way that Christianity conformed people, was by integrating aspects of their own belief systems of the indigenous people into Christianity. That's been well documented, that a lot of our holidays, the days of our week, etc., are all from other populations of people, and it just got integrated in through Christianity. So the Spanish do allow September 8th to remain in honor of their rain goddess, but still replaced her image with the Virgin Mary at the front of the altar. Now, the good part is that it allowed, again, the pyramid to keep its sacred nature to this day. And most Cholulians to this day today are Christian, and thousands come to honor the image of Mary on the night of September 7th, and with lanterns, etc., spend the night so they can greet the statue with lanterns early on the 8th. So September 8th is like one of their holidays because of this. Closer to the pyramid's pre-Hispanic roots, in the Quetzalcoatl ritual every spring during the equinox, it can draw upwards of 20,000 people. That's led authorities to restrict access to the exposed ruins on the south side of the pyramid. And the ritual is performed on the pyramid with poetry and indigenous dance, music, fireworks, etc. Now, they do have to limit the number of fireworks that are set off, or what kind of fireworks, I guess. Yes, it would. Yes, worshiping Mary is Catholic, but that's what Spaniards were. And back during the conquest, that really was what they were pushing, is Catholicism and conversion to Catholicism. So yes, they have this huge, massive statue of Mary. It's kind of gaudy in how it looks with the colors and stuff, and how over the top it is at the front of the altar. There's nothing quiet about the statue. I thought I had a picture of it, and I don't. So unfortunately, I can't share that with you. But I do find it ironic that, they were struck by lightning that many times, which is highly unusual. But so the pyramid site accounts for only 6 hectares, which is equal to 2.5 acres. But the site is believed to extend over 154 hectares, which equals 380 acres. So that's how big the site itself is thought to be. Not the pyramid, but the whole site that everything sat on, with the structures and the altars and the courtyards and all that. But 90 hectares, are privately owned, and they don't want any archaeological investigation of that land conducted, which is unfortunate. But, I guess in a way it's going to protect it from being, dug up and everything, but at the same time, there's no way of knowing what's there. Now, the pyramid remains the main. You can get up. Go ahead. Go ahead. Nothing is stopping you except yourself. the main tourist attraction in Cholula. That's what I was thinking too, is that, it's a lightning rod because it's a church on top of a hill, on top of a pyramid. And then, of course, they have a cross on top of the church itself. So the cross would kind of end up acting like a lightning rod, but kind of ironic that, they came in and kind of forced their Catholicism in on the people and taking over the pyramid site and building on top of that and making it their own, so to speak, and kind of removing their indigenous belief in the rain goddess and their whatever statuary they may have had to represent her on site was taken down, and they replaced it with the site of the statue of Mary. But kind of like, is the lighting a little bit of karma happening, or kind of an attention getter or displeasure of the deity of the rain goddess? Maybe. So, due to the tourism factor, measures are taken to protect the site. The archaeological zone is patrolled by police on horseback to keep vehicles off the site, etc. And some fields around the site have been bought up by authorities and made into soccer fields, and some sown with flowers to make a buffer between the constructions of homes and the pyramids. So it kind of creates a little boundary space where there's a little leeway on, around the area that's not privately owned. So by making it a soccer field, that's going to be pretty innocuous, of an activity to happen there, and a way that they can earn some money back on having bought the property. But yes, it's at least preserving it. Jake, she's not in your way. Go ahead. She's not in your way. You can get up. It's okay. Go ahead. You're all right. So perhaps someday in the future, excavations will again resume. But as of right now, they've been at a standstill since 1974. And hopefully, if excavations can resume, they'll be able to document and save whatever other hidden secrets that this pyramid may hold for future generations, and perhaps also apply newer technology to the excavation equipment that gets used. Like now they have ground penetrating radar, that can be used to identify what's in there. So they wouldn't have had to, say if they had ground penetrating radar back in the day, they wouldn't have had to dig the tunnels in. They could have just scanned the area to tell what's underneath there. But, they didn't have those things back then. So a lot of archaeological sites of ancient origin, archaeologists are choosing to rebury sites in order to preserve them for future generations when there may be a stronger, higher level of technology at that time that can be used to help preserve the site further and keep it protected. But until then, because a lot of sites, you still get vandals and things in there. And to me, it just puts my panties in a bunch to hear about it, for my love of archaeology, where, the country of origin really doesn't care about these areas much. So they allow concerts in the area, or, concert goers or vagrants in there to hang out and live, and, different graffiti and things like that. And, they're not protected sites, or considered that protected. And so they're slowly going to hell because of it. So those that choose to rebury them, hey, I think that's fine, because down the road, then, let future generations have a piece of it as well, to identify them and help protect them and have a hand in that. So let me see if there's any other pictures I hadn't shown yet. You missed all the pictures, Erin. See how you are by being late? Okay, so this one is kind of like an artist rendition of what the site probably looked like. This isn't a drawing. This is more like a model that got made to kind of show what they thought the site in its entirety would have looked like. And again, at the height of it, 100,000 people lived here. So, it's pretty expansive. And I still am curious over the title of the people that fled and as to why. This is one of the sites that the excavation wasn't completed on Trying to get at the right angle here. So you can't see it well in the picture, but there's like tenting over top of it in order to keep it protected. Well, see, that's what it serves you right for being late to your mom's show. See how that works? Let's see here. So here's another one of like the tunnels. I just thought it was kind of like an eerie picture, but may have been more like an advertisement. But those are the tunnel walls on either side, and it's just kind of overlit to make it a little bit creepy. Where do the people go, I wonder, when the desert up they desert a place like that? Yeah, no, I mean that's totally what I've questioned before as well, is that it's unknown where these people, the population goes to, if they intersperse into other surrounding area populations, or, did they die out, or did something else happen that we don't know about? Because especially in this site, because even though it's has the title of the largest pyramid in the world, the excavations of it stopped. So we don't know all of what's there. And had they been able to excavate more of it at the higher levels of the pyramid, that could have held evidence. Oh, an angry face. Who gave an angry face? Oh my goodness. That could have given it evidence over like what happened to them at the end, or what may have been happening environmentally, or what have you, towards the end of their time there. Somebody could have written something or made some piece of artwork that would have reflected that. But yeah, we don't know, unfortunately. And there are others who are, it's happened to many cultures over time where they just, nobody knows where it came from or where they went. So this is just another image of Quetzalcoatl with the serpent, the winged serpent. What? Climbing on me. Come on. I got to be able to sit up. Do you mind? Come on, move. Little girl, come on, honey, sit next to me. Good grief. I hate when she climbs me when I lean over and I'm like stuck there. So this is, interestingly, the image was titled Teotihuacan Cholula Art History, but it's really of a Teotihuacan pyramid, not Cholula's pyramid. But again, similar style. And you could easily see by the shape of how old time, if left untouched, how vegetation could kind of overlay and looking like another hillside. And they're not the ones. Like I saw some documentary I was watching somewhere along the way. It was talking about this guy who noticed these hills in, I want to say he was in China somewhere, Japan maybe, it was definitely Asia. And he, and looking at him, he's kind of eyeballing like, there's something familiar to those shapes. So he got a little bit closer of a look and started realizing that those were pyramid shapes there. And they had, upon investigating it closer through the paper trail, etc., he discovered that the government genuinely was trying to hide this stuff from the people by intentionally planting, trees and so forth over top of them. And from the air, they do look very much just like hills. But on a straight on view, they do have more of a pyramid structure to them, but they're covered in trees. It's a big forest. And they don't allow you to get any closer to check it out. Now, there have been a couple who snuck on there and made secret videos, of course, but you're risking huge fines and possible imprisonment, etc. Not a happy ending either way. And so it's not known all of what is there either, because it's like the government tried to hide it. Why? We don't know. But, so you could kind of see how, at least with this site, it would happen naturally, where the site would get overtaken with vegetation and look like just a hillside. You're not going to watch the replay. We know this. This topic isn't a big topic of interest to you. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it was China or Japan, but yeah, it looked like they covered them intentionally with forestation. Don't you know it's not nice to lie to your mother, Aaron? Sorry, think me. Think you what, Kim? What are you talking about, honey? That's what I'm saying. Don't lie to me that you're going to watch it. I know you're not gonna. Silly. Okay, so that's the history of the greatest pyramid on Earth and the largest pyramid on Earth. And again, it's not so much height-wise as it is the width of the site is massive compared to even the Pyramid of Giza. So yeah, I hate lying. Don't lie to me. You should know that by now. So the next Willows Bend is going to be on June 21st. This month is flying by. China covered pyramids. Yeah, that's what I was saying before you got here, is I thought it was China. It was some Asian country I knew, and that they covered it with forestation. So, oh, you're fine, Kim. No worries, honey. So the next Willows Bend is June 21st, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, as usual. The topics we have to vote on are Hampi, India, which is another ancient site. I would rather be hurt by the truth than fooled by a lie. Think about that one. Hampi, India is an amazing site that is not reflective of the normal, quote, normal ways of a style of architecture at the time that was used back then. It has stood, like, some of the pieces in there are beyond ancient and way older than the rest of the site is, they don't know how they built it. There was one that had like I want to say it was like a tower sort of structure, but it was made out of iron and some other kind of metal, but there is not a spot of rust on this whole piece. And it is at least a good couple thousand years old anyway. Not a single speck of rust on this thing, by however they used it with the metallurgy of the time. You know, it's amazing, but it's a massive site. And it is absolutely gorgeous. The style, whatever style of architecture they used was not native to that area at the time. So yeah, Tanya can vote. Anybody can vote who's a member of the group can vote. Yep, still here, Lori. So we have Hampi, India. I just want to kind of give a little explanation of what that site is so people know. We have Hampi, India, the Mary Celeste, which was the ship that was found abandoned, like they just got it from supper and left. The reptilian alien races, the Tunguska event, which was that site in Russia that looked like a massive meteorite fell, leveled everything, but there's no impact site anywhere to be found there to explain it. So no one truly knows what happens there, but it's pretty weird. The origins of nursery rhymes, and the unknown discs of Volgograd, Russia, which are kind of, the topic's kind of self-explanatory, that they have all these discs that are found in Volgograd that are made of stone. They don't know their origins. They don't know where they're from, etc. But they're pretty amazing looking. I left for a couple minutes and I couldn't find you. Yeah, always just either come back into Willows Bend and it should be live in here, or you can go to like the Soma Fusion page and watch it there, or YouTube. I mean, kind of anywhere you want to. So let's see. Sandy G says the Tunguska event. Karen wants nursery rhymes because that was her topic. Kim says reptilian aliens. Renee says nursery rhymes. Erin says nursery rhymes. Marianne says the Mary Celeste, or the reptilian one. I was looking at Donna Gorton. Yeah, it's always, I handle chat in Willows Bend, so I'm always going to be in here to cover the show in the group, because even if I go to YouTube, that's everybody from the group goes there instead. So either way. Mary says the Mary Celeste. But yeah, it's not, I don't have a chance to share it out until after I'm off the air. Lori says nursery rhymes. We're pushing towards that being the topic for this week. So anybody new who is watching or listening to me out and about the world, I can most easiest, gosh, I can't talk tonight. Most easiest be found on Facebook in my group, the Willows Bend. I'm also on Messenger. That's the best way and fastest way to reach me. If you have a show topic you'd like to suggest, feel free, throw it out there. I'll let you know if we've covered it or not before. Worst case scenario, I'll have to check with my archivist. There's a title for you, Sandy, my archivist. She'll tell me if I've done it before or not. So, yes, Natalie, the topics for next week are Hampi India site, which is an ancient site not built in traditional styles of the time. Nobody knows what it is, but it's an amazing, massive site, and the details there are beautiful. The Mary Celeste, reptilian alien races, the Tunguska event, origins of nursery rhymes, or the unknown discs of Volgograd, Russia. Still need to watch them. Yeah, Karen, that was your show. Sandy's on the Soma Fusion page. Yep. Had to get my cat. That's okay. The replay will be up as soon as we're off air, pretty much. So those are the topics for Natalie. Hampi, India, the Mary Celeste, reptilian alien races, the Tunguska event, the origins of nursery rhymes, or the unknown discs of Volgograd, Russia. Mary Celeste or nursery rhymes. Okay. Yeah, the Hopi Indian sites are amazing too. We can put that on the list, Lori. They are an amazing culture of people. Hopi Indians. We can add that. I know we haven't done one of that. All of them. Medicated cat at the moment. Yeah, poor babies. So it looks like it's going to be origins of nursery rhymes for next week's topic. And Wednesday is the book group, and we started this past week the Seth material. I stopped, I think it was just before chapter 5. So if you had to leave, miss it, whatever, I always do a summary at the beginning to kind of catch you up on the topics discussed up to that point. So if you missed it, not a huge deal. Come this week if you're interested. If not, that's okay. No pressure either way. We're very relaxed in there on Wednesday nights, and we are just, mellow and chilled out and hang out. And so if you want to be there. If not, that's okay. And then Fridays, I go live on my page, Beyond the Veil, on Facebook at 8 p.m. Everything's always 8 p.m. because there is no good time to make everyone happy around the country, around the world, to have one set time that works for everybody. So 8 o'clock it is. It's easier Eastern time, by the way. Well, we love your warpedness. So with that, guys, I want to wish you all a beautiful week. I will see those who are interested in the book group Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, and back in here. Well, we'll Beyond the Veil Friday for readings, and then back in here next Monday at 8 p.m. I'm so interested in the book group. I have a doctor's back that day, so I'll have to miss it again. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that kind of sucks. Well, if you happen to come to the following one, we still, again, can catch you up on what's been covered, because I always do a little synopsis each time to catch everyone up who may have missed it. So even if you haven't read half the book, you'll still be okay. So let me make sure Katie is on board, that we are pretty well done. She probably knows, but just to be sure, if I can get this to type here. There we go. And close it out there. She's here. Okay. So with that, love and light to everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week. I will see you guys Wednesday, Friday, and then the following Monday. And otherwise, if you need me, shoot me a message on Messenger under Donna Gorton. I'm there. So love to everybody. Thank you all for coming. Much blessings. Stay well. Be nice to each other. And I will see you guys around Facebook land. Have a great night, everyone.